Where else in the world would you want to be? I'm not going too close to the edge. Or it is the biggest jellyfish I've ever seen in my life before. And if you can see here, of standing water. Can you describe a city as cosy? Yeah, and it's called St David's. Welcome to our channel. We are Kath, Sue, Archie and Fudge, and we are well into our second year of full-time van life. We love exploring the UK and sharing the little gems we find, choosing where we stay to suit our love of the outdoors and making the most of our retirement together. We are here at Pendine Sands and we're here for the next 3 days. The dogs are going to love this because there is a part of the beach they're not allowed on, but it's actually quite a small part and you don't mind that whatsoever. When you've got 7 miles of beach, it's quite nice that there's a part of it, quite a large part of it, where the dogs can run. And we've seen absolutely loads of dogs going mental, just having the time of their life, running into the sea. And I've paddled and it's quite warm. Now it's not so much a swimmy beach. I think it'd be good fun to jump in the waves, and there's definitely, I'm sure it would be good for bodyboarding. Maybe the waves aren't quite big enough for surfing, or maybe for big, I don't know. I have no idea what you would do here, but there are some those big kite surfy things around. So if we get a chance, no doubt we'll have a chance to have a look at that as well. When you get weather like this, and you're on a 7-mile stretch of sandy beach, where else in the world would you want to be? And it's notable when you're around this side how much windier it is. And here's our odd little site. But ideal, because if I just spin around, the beach is just over that wall. Well, can you see what I can see? There is beach volleyball nets over here. Last time Sue and I played beach volleyball, we were in Lanzarote and Sue put her back out because her competitive spirit meant she had to go for everything. And we thought we were going for a lesson and we ended up in a competition, but we had a good time. If you look over there, sorry, right, kind of there. That's the rock that I went round yesterday. You can see the tide is in now. Look at you two having a little rest together. Just behind where we're sitting at the moment is the Museum of Land Speed. Unfortunately, it's closed today, but it is actually open on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. So I'm hoping I'll get a chance to have a look in there and take you with me. Well, good evening. So I am stood on the headland, which kind of protrudes out. I don't quite know what the name of the rock is, but I think it's to the west end of the 7-mile beach. And I'm stood on the top of a rock that struts out. I'm not going too close to the edge, but it's an absolutely glorious, beautiful evening. It's been a bit on and off sunny today, but it's ended nicely, and as you can see behind me is that spectacular stretch, 7 miles long of beach. I'm up here with Fudge and I've got her tied to my waist at the moment with the lead because I don't want her chasing anything, which would then take her off the edge, because it's a proper edge. But it's hard to find words to take all of this in. Here we are in the UK. In fact, in beautiful Wales. Now, as beautiful as Fudge is, that's not why I've got my camera pointing in this direction, but look at this. I mean, there are bins everywhere around here, and yet people seem to think it's okay to just leave Coke cans around. So I'm going to do my bit, and I'm going to pick these up. Oh, it's even got Coke in it. Pick this one up a bit closer to the edge. I fancy just leaving that here. Why would you do that? And another one. I should have brought my litter picking bag, and some left in that as well. Should have brought my litter picking bag. And what I've discovered already is that Pendine sand is very, very fine. So twice a day it makes a new racetrack for whoever wants to do a speed experience. A new racetrack that's never been tried before. Twice a day. Now I love this. You can build your own racing car and test it on a track. So brilliant for kids. So you build you take parts, explore about aerodynamics, and then test it on this track. So I've just come out now from the Museum of Land Speed, and I think that is £7 very well spent. I don't think that's particularly expensive at all. Now inside it's not massive, but there's lots and lots of information about world land speed records that have been made here on Pendine Sands. Now there was a guy called Godfrey Parry-Thomas, I hope I've got that right, and he was the first person to ever die attempting a world land speed record, and that was here on this beach. I think he got the record in about 1926 at 169 miles per hour. He was actually beaten by Sir Campbell, who got up to 174 miles per hour on this very beach in front of me here. That record stood for about 80 years, and it was actually the actor Idris Elba who tried it, a long time later, and beat that record. And I can't remember what speed he got up to, but it's fascinating to think all of those things happened on these sands here. Well, we're due to leave this site tomorrow, and I realise I haven't told you an awful lot about this quirky little site. We found it on Search for Sites. It's quite expensive. It's £30 a night, but that includes electric hookup and the toilets and showers. There are actually 2 little bathrooms, and they're really nice. The shower's good. It's hot and really good water pressure as well. And I guess you're paying that price because of, once again, the location. All in all, I am really happy. It's definitely a place that we would come back to. We've thoroughly enjoyed our 3 days here, and the owners of the site are really lovely, friendly people. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to mention is there's a laundrette that way, about not even a minute's walk from here. So it's a handy location if you want to get your laundry done as well. Well, good morning, and it's quite early in the morning. I've already been out once with Archie, and apologies if there's any problem with the sound. I've no mics on because it's miserly rain. Where I come from we call it billinge rain. But I was out with Archie this morning, didn't have any cameras or anything with me, so I've had to come back out again because I was walking forward and thinking, that's a very kind of light coloured smooth rock. Either that, or it is the biggest jellyfish I've ever seen in my life before. Well, guess what? It was. So I've had to come back out because I need you to see this. It's ginormous. I'm going to put my foot beside it. Now, I haven't got really big feet. I'm about 5.5. Look at this. So on that note, and on a drizzly billinge rain kind of day, we are going to leave Pendine and head off to St David's. Well, good afternoon everyone. We've made it to our next destination, which I don't know if you can see behind me. It's a rugby club. Now what's a real shame is if you come at the weekend, there's like a Sri Lankan food van that does takeaways here on the field with us, and he was I was chatting to the guy who has the van. I'll turn you around so you can see. So it's just a little van there, and I was chatting to him earlier, and he was saying that on a Friday night and Saturdays, if the weather's nice, people will sit outside the rugby club on the benches there and have their Sri Lankan takeaway. Well, good morning everyone, and welcome to the latest motorhoming drama. So you might see I'm looking at the cabinet where all the new electrical update is, but that is not the problem. The problem is, and thankfully Bluefix anticipated the potential for this and mounted the inverter onto a platform just in case we had a leak from the pipes. Well, it seems we have. So what happened is I kept hearing the pump going just for a couple of seconds, and then it would stop and it wouldn't happen again for about 8 minutes. Now this has happened once before, and it turned out there was a tap slightly open. Closed it, no problem, fixed. So it automatically made me think that there was potentially a leak in the system. And if you can see here, whenever I press that, you can see water dripping from here. So what I found this morning was probably a centimetre, yeah, that much, maybe half a centimetre to a centimetre of standing water in the bottom of here. And I could see there's a pipe underneath the van which was dripping from water. Actually, when I've had a sponge in and cleaned it out, that pipe has stopped dripping, but I can't stop this dripping. So I think, and I'm no expert, I think there's probably a leak from a pipe which is way back under there. Might just be a joint, I hope, and it's leaking. But in order to get to that, I think I'm going to have to get the battery out, and I'm really not confident about that. So I've contacted Bluefix, and that was really just to make sure I'm not going to damage anything by removing the battery, because we think we've found the offending article. I'll see if I can show you. So this joint here, let's see if I can move that. This joint just here, probably not even in focus, is the offending joint. So I'm going to try and fix that. It looks like it's just a push-on Jubilee clip, or clip that's probably come a bit loose. Yes, it's definitely off, more off than anything else, and we'll try and fix it. So this is not quite flush on there like it is on the others, and that's where the water's been coming from. So the battery, as you can see, is back in place. Everything's turned back on. It's working. We think we've cured the leak. There is still water here, but we think that's probably just some residual water from before. I've tried to get the camera in quite close now because it's clear that we haven't solved the problem. I think we've solved one problem, but if I point here, you can't really see, can you? But this pipe, the white pipe, is still leaking. It's the wide white pipe that I think there's a leak. So maybe it's just as simple as an O-ring in there. Well, I have an update, and if you're wondering about the change of t-shirt, it's not a new day. I just eventually got around to having a shower and changing. We haven't cured it. We've definitely fixed the pipe that was coming loose, but we've still got water dripping into there. So we've managed to get somebody who does motorhome repairs who will see us today, West Coast Caravan Servicing or something like that. He's based in Haverfordwest, a guy called Phil. I've looked at the reviews. He gets absolutely excellent reviews, and he has very kindly agreed to fit us in today to have a look at it, with no guarantees he can fix it, but let's hope he could at least maybe put some tape around it, some I don't know, some waterproof tape that might at least give us a temporary fix so we can limp on through until we can get back and maybe catch up with Ollie Van. Sorry, Paul, we might be coming your way again. Well, we're on our way to Haverfordwest now to go to the guy who we're hoping will at least be able to do a temporary fix on our leaking problem. But anyway, en route we've decided to stop at this little place called Solva. We passed through this on the way to St David's, and you could just about see from the road that it looked like a lovely little harbour, very pretty. Apparently there's some kind of fort. Don't really know anything about it because we've only just stopped off by chance. Hopefully be able to give the dogs a little dip. It looks like there's a section along here where we might be able to give them a dip. And then we'll be heading off to Haverfordwest next.
It's hard to stay real in a world full of fakes. It's hard to find truth when the liars are great. I'm trying my best to stay out of your way. Oh well, oh well. You talk a big talk, but got nothing to say. You hold your head high.
So we've reached the end of what's called the accessible path, and actually there's a private key, which is you can only launch if you remember apparently, but there's also a cafe. Not that we'll be using the cafe because I think we're going to have to head back to the car park. It's probably as far as we can get with Archie. So I'm not entirely sure what this is. Maybe it's a fort. Maybe it's some kind of guard house for the harbour from years gone by. Oh, Sue's found an interesting one because there's an entrance and an exit. It goes right through by the looks of things. Well, we're back from Haverfordwest and it looks like we had actually fixed it, if that makes any sense, before we got there, because he's done exactly the same as we had. He has fiddled around a little bit more with the same clip on the same pipe and tested it. We've run a load of water and he can't find any other leak anywhere else. So it does look like that we had fixed it, but we'll see. But we are finally getting the opportunity to walk into St David's. Now that's not to say we're not convinced that the leak is actually properly fixed, because just before we left we heard the pump go again, and when I looked round, although there wasn't the same kind of standing water, there was definitely water in there, although definitely not from the pipe that we fixed yesterday. So it is currently a complete mystery, but anyway, for now we've turned the water off so that we can enjoy St David's, and it's brightened up ever so slightly from the rain that we had first thing this morning. And this is the cute little street down to the castle. I think it's a castle. Well, hopefully, as you can see, I am stood in front of this rather spectacular St David's Cathedral. Now, St David's is the smallest city in the UK. What a spectacularly enormous cathedral for actually what is a really small place. As you walk down the hill to the cathedral and come around the corner, you get a really good glimpse of this. I'm guessing this was once upon a time the old cathedral. We'll find out when we get there. So that old place I was telling you about seems to be called St David's Bishop's Palace. It certainly is very palatial. Well, Sue and I have stopped for lunch at the Bishop's Free House. And as you can see, our outlook whilst we're having our lunch is the cathedral in the background. So this looks like it's the main street of St David's. It's not that long, so it's quite a cosy little city. Let's call it cosy. There's outdoor shops. Obviously lots of outdoorsy people come here. Oh, and there is an ice cream parlour. I've just spotted an ice cream parlour. So that might be my next stop. And Sue's gone into that cosy little shop. I like this word. Can you describe a city as cosy? Yeah, if it's called St David's. So Sue's gone into that cosy little shop behind me. We need some milk. My kind of shop. Washies, pasties. That's me happy again. Well, hi everyone. So after that ice cream, we went back to the van, only to find we still had water in the locker. So to cut a very long story short, we went back to West Coast Caravan Servicing on 2 more occasions, and Phil there was really accommodating, fitted us in at the end of the day, and even on Friday at 5:30 in the afternoon was happy for us to go back. And although we had solved one problem, we had just then created another. And the conclusion of all our diagnosis is that we have a faulty tap in the kitchen sink. Some kind of blockage in there, and what's happening is as we're turning that tap on, particularly the hot water tap, pressure is building up behind, and that's forcing that, I'm calling it a bus bar for pipes, forcing the joints apart in that. So for now we're not using the hot water in the sink. Phil did a temporary repair, effectively pushed all those joints back together, put in some much stronger screws to hold it down so that, you know, if there's any movement it doesn't pop apart quite so easily. And we're going to have to source a new tap, and probably that bus bar thing, well, I'm sure there's a name for it, and it's definitely not that, but it's what's in my mind. So we have moved on, but there'll be more about that in next week's video. But for now, if you've enjoyed this video, please think about giving us the thumbs up. We really appreciate that. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, then subscribe. It's really easy to do and it costs nothing. It's absolutely free. And don't forget, if you ding that little bell, YouTube will let you know every time we post a new video. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.